We start off in the United States, where President Joe Biden has promised to remain in the presidential race and beat his opponent, despite growing calls from members of his Democratic Party asking him to withdraw. President Biden, who is isolating at his beach house in Delaware since his COVID-19 diagnosis took him at his rival Donald Trump, who just wrapped up the Republican National Convention and said he would return to campaigning next week. His statement appeared to be in response to the conflicting reports that Mr. Biden's inner circle is discussing the beleaguered president's future and whether he will remain in the race. Over the last several weeks, Mr. Biden has been caught in the whirlwind of political pressure to step down, calls from leaders within his own party to withdraw from the race, a loss of big-ticket donors, and the added pressure that his decision could cost Democrats control of Congress. A three-volley gun salute and a bugle-sounding taps pierced the air of a small Pennsylvania town as hundreds gathered to honor an ex-fire chief who was shot and killed at a rally for former President Donald Trump. Following funeral services for Rick Humberto, large crowds of mourners waiting outside fell silent as his American flag-draped casket emerged from Cabot Methodist Church. Firefighters ceremoniously removed the flag and presented it to his wife, Helen, before loading the casket onto a fire truck adorned with black bunting. A sharpshooter team mounted on a nearby rooftop served as a reminder of last weekend's bloodshed. Officials have said that Humberto spent his final moments shielding his wife and daughter from gunfire at Trump's rally last Saturday in Butler, Pennsylvania. And for more on this, a global affairs analyst Kunle Fallow joins me now on the news. Good afternoon. And for more on this story, we have global affairs analyst Kunle Fallow, who will be joining me on the news at this hour. Good afternoon.
Hi, thank you for having me.
All right, it feels like it is 2020 again. What's your reading of the political temperature in the U.S. as we speak?
Tumultuous, very intense, and nerve-wracking currently. There's so many things going on, and that will culminate to what we're going to finally expect in November. It's a lot going on right now. But I do know that at the end of the day, the American people will have to decide. The electorate will have to decide. But it's just preparatory work before that time. And it seems to be a lot happening. But we'll just have to wait and see how it kind of plays out.
All right, so President Joe Biden of the United States has vowed to defeat his Republican rival Donald Trump in the November presidential election. Now, is there still a path to victory for President Biden?
That's a good question. I personally wish I have a crystal ball that could kind of tell us what's going to happen, but unfortunately, nobody does. We're just making permutations, and I will also say that, people have divergent views, and they change their minds from time to time, and it's up in the air. I would also say that there's so many surveys and questionnaires and ratings and all that that's been happening to see what the electorates are as far as who they would vote for, but just to cast our mind back to 2020, that didn't work because the permutations and the surveys and the questionnaires didn't kind of point to the correct candidate. So, like I said before, it's divergent views and people change their minds at will. But as it is very up in the air. We're not sure who's going to be, the eventual nominee for the Democratic Party.
Now, you would agree with me that this is not just about presidential election, it is also Congress. Now, Democratic candidates for the U.S. House of Representatives and Senate are increasingly worried that voters concerned about President Joe Biden's age will kind of drag down their own candidacies. Now, especially in state and individual districts where the voting public is closely divided. Now, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, there seems to be a lot of calls from congressional Democrats and uh, House Democrats and Senate um, increased call for Mr. Biden to step aside and pass the torch. However, that has been, closely been monitored, and the Biden team are not trying to entertain that. So there's a lot of fors and against right now. But as it is, people are haven't decided yet, especially politicians are kind of in the middle, and they're very scared of Mr. Trump because oh, definitely he's got some followers. A lot of people know him, they know of him, and they reckon with him. And that is not to say that is the mindset of the entire electorate, in America. But he has a sizable number of people that will vouch for him and support him in the election. But the thing is, um, where the president hasn't decided yet if he's going to pass the touch or not. Yes, definitely there are growing concerns about his health and his mental acuity, and his isolation recently due to his COVID diagnosis has kind of exacerbated the increased call for him to pass the torch. But as it is, there's some congressional Democrats that are supporting him, and their statement calls to say that he could potentially defeat Donald Trump. But there are others that are saying that he should, just go ahead and pass the touch. But um, I would also mention that the Democratic National Convention is coming up in August the 19th, where they will have to pick their nominee. So all fingers crossed till then.
Now, let's talk about the pressure. I mean, the whirlwind of political pressure. We've had leaders within Biden's own political party asking him to step down. What would you like to say about this? Do you see him stepping down?
Mr. Biden has been a career politician for years, and he's not he's not alienated, or he's not. This is not going to be the first time that people will, you know, make a call like this. He's familiar with the political terrain, and he perfectly do understand what is at stake. In one of his televised interview, he had mentioned that even if he doesn't run, there are other, politicians in the Democratic Party that can potentially defeat Donald Trump. So again, I think he's also trying to weigh his pros and cons and see if he could um, leverage on supports coming in and trying to work out and see if it's a possible course, or he's going to have to pass the touch eventually. But that is something that Mr. President will have to decide for himself with his political team, and that is, I believe, it's ongoing. So we're not sure yet, but I believe there will be some form of a unanimous decision come August the 19th during the convention.
Now, how critical do you think this election is for the rest of the world amidst all that is happening as we speak?
It is very critical. This will determine what the international community would think and view about America, and also it also has to do with a lot of policy change, especially international relations and foreign policy. Um, uh, Depending on what party is anchoring the ship will determine the policy directions or international policy directions for the next 4 years. So this is very instrumental to see what um, the election. I mean, what the American people are deciding for the election and what party runs the course, and that will determine what policy switch we're having. So it's going to be definitely different agenda if we have a Republican run the affairs of the country in the next 4 years or the next 8 years. Nonetheless, it is a very high stake political election coming up in November. No doubt about that.
Right, we may have to leave it there now. And I've been speaking with Global Affairs analyst Kunle Fallow. Thanks indeed for your time with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Right, you're watching TVC News. We'll take a moment and return with more stories. Please stay with us.
This Sunday, meet Abdulbasit Lawal, a Lagos-based innovator turning waste into wonders.
What Basit have demonstrated so far, though very crude, is his ability to look at bigger systems and reproduce it prototypically.
Ibrahim Shita takes us on a journey to uncover the curiosity, craftsmanship and perseverance behind Abdulbasit's groundbreaking creations. From motorcycle to Jeep prototype,